Hey ladies, welcome back to my channel, Parenting with Purpose. I'm Christian, and today, well actually last week, we talked about changing your family's course. And in order to do that, it requires the healed version of you, right, to show up. And so getting the healing that you need and getting the healing that you deserve, it actually positions you for the life that God has already predestined for you. And so I've shared my story on here before, being in a toxic relationship and getting pregnant and deciding to leave that relationship because that's not the life that I wanted for me or my son. So I've shared that with you before, but just because I left doesn't mean that I was able to just escape everything that came with it. It wasn't a-okay. I left still heartbroken. I was still fearful. I was still dealing with anger and bitterness, and it started to show up in my life. It showed up in my work ethic. It showed up in how I would present myself, how I carried myself, how I would talk to people. And so how you talk to your child, and later on as I had my son and he started getting older, I started to see that what was in my heart was starting to come out in the ways that I would talk to my son. And I got a glimpse of how I sounded, and I didn't like it. And so today I want to talk to you about your heart. What is in your heart, because what's in your heart will come out. And I want you to think of your heart like the engine for your car. So the engine in your car is literally the force behind the car, right? So you can have the engine light come on because of a sensor or because of your fuel cap that maybe there's a malfunction or something's going off with your fuel cap, but the engine light will come on. And so it's all tied to the engine. So what's going on with the engine is still going to show up in all areas of the car, whatever is wrong, much like with your heart. So whatever is in your heart is going to show up in all areas of your life. So if you don't have a healthy heart, if you don't have healthy roots that matches what the Word of God says, then it's going to show up in your life. It's going to show up in how you parent. It's going to show up in the workplace. It's going to show up in how you speak and how you carry yourself. It can even show up in your finances. So I want to talk to you about what's in your heart. And so if we're being honest, we've all been hurt, and it doesn't feel good. We've all been hurt, and between being hurt and if you feel like you've had to fight all your life, you've had to fight for the things that you need, fight for the things that you want, especially being a single mom. If we're not careful and so much time passes by, all of those emotions can start to build up, and they can take root. They can affect how we think, and eventually it's going to affect how we speak and how we act out in life. And so that's what I want to talk to you about today, because it is crucial. Normally when we begin our healing journey, most of the time people like to look at their actions, when in fact we need to be looking at our hearts. Rarely do we look at our hearts. We always go for the behavior first. But if we go to the root of it, we need to start at the heart. What is in your heart? And so maybe this is an exercise. I highly encourage you to make time, carve out time. I can't say find time, because as moms, we can get pretty busy. So carve out some quiet time and journal. If you don't like journaling, you say, Christian, that's just not my cup of tea. Okay, girl, I got you. Get you a notebook. Get you a notebook or some loose leaf paper. But I really highly encourage you to take up this exercise and spend some quiet time. Pray about it first, before you start writing things down. But ask God to reveal to you, like, God, what's in my heart? And He'll do it. He will do it. He will not let you down, okay? Because this is the beginning of your healing journey. But I want you to look at your heart. What is in there? Is it unforgiveness? Is it anger? Is it bitterness? Is it fear? Is it resentment? In Jeremiah 17:9, Jeremiah is talking and he says, the heart is deceitful above all things. It is extremely wicked. Who can fully understand it? And then he goes on to say that who knows its secrets, its secret motives. So our hearts have secret motives that we would never fully understand, but we can at least strive. We would never be perfect until the day that Jesus comes. However, we can still strive to be more like Jesus in order, and get the healing that we need. Because there is a scripture that talks about God calls us to freedom. God calls us to be free. He doesn't want us to stay bound. He doesn't want us to stay enslaved in trauma and things that happened in our past. So he does want us to get the healing that we need, because again, it positions you for the life that God has already predestined for you. All right. So when Jeremiah is talking about this, he's saying the heart is deceitful. He says the heart is deceitful and it's extremely wicked. Who can fully understand it? And then again, he goes on to say, who can understand it, or who can know its secret motives. But then he has this conversation with God, and he has this request, and he says, Lord, search my heart and examine my mind. That's two things. He says, search my heart and examine my mind. The reason why is because once something is in your heart and then it filters to your mind, the heart is where the roots are. And then from the heart is where it starts to filter into the mind. That's where evil thoughts come from. That's where the plans begin to start stirring up and plotting, all of the murders and the adulteries and the sexual immorality that the Bible talks about. That's where it starts to stir up. And so if we're not careful to take captive of every thought and make it obedient to Christ, in other words, if we're not careful to take those thoughts, to be mindful of the thoughts that enter into our mind and say, okay, is that godly or is that from Satan? If we're not careful to do the work, then you're just going to have evil thoughts just flowing through your mind. And what goes from the heart filters into the mind, it comes out of your mouth. It shows up in your life. So Proverbs, it talks about guarding the heart. It says, guard your heart above all things. And because from it springs the issues of life. So that goes to show you what's in your heart is going to control your life. That's why we're dealing with the heart today. So why am I saying all of this? When we're talking about how we speak to our children, how we as parents, how we speak to our children, our words cost. The Bible tells us that we are called to build our homes, not tear them down. And just like with our children, we can build our children up or we can tear them down, right? And so if we're not careful, we can literally produce a hurt child that will then grow up into a hurt adult. I think we all can agree that there's enough hurt that's going on or going around in this world, and we don't need to produce any more. All right, not on our watch. So our words cost, and there's a difference when it comes to praising and encouraging our children. Praise has a lot to do with the accomplishment. The praise has a lot to do with a person's accomplishment, something that they've achieved. So your child has graduated or your child passed the test. Oh, I'm so proud of you. I love you. That's you praising them for something that they've done. It's kind of like giving them the approval in a sense. But when we start talking about encouraging your child, that is a little bit more challenging. Because we as parents, we have a tendency, we can either bless our kids or we can curse them. What I mean by that, I'm not talking about profanity or using cuss words. What I'm saying is, in a heated moment, we can be quick to say, oh, you messed it up, or you didn't do it right. And so because we're in a heated moment, we may not be thinking about how that can affect our children, but that literally just cursed them. So another way to, or a way to combat that is to encourage your child. Hey, you know what? I see you doing really good. I see you putting in your best effort. Keep going. I see you. You're doing an amazing job. So we want to encourage our children. Something that God had shown me a couple years now. It's been a couple years ago. And I remember driving down the highway, and I remember asking God. I was really trying to understand my son, because he was in a new place. God was sharing with me, like, I need you to start speaking to that spirit. Speak to his spirit, like build him up. And when I started doing that, I started seeing a difference in him. Like, he didn't feel like I was tearing him down. He didn't feel like I was being mean, but rather, okay, my mom, she sees the best in me. My mom is encouraging me. Like, kids can feel that. And so that's what I'm trying to get you to understand. But if your heart is not pure, then we put it like this. What's in your heart is going to come out. So if you're still full of anger, let's say you're still full of anger from the past relationship. Let's just use that as an example. You're still angry. You still feel resentment from the past relationship, and you're still trying to parent your child. How you feel about that last relationship, how you even feel about the individual, will come out in how you speak to your child. So we have to be careful to really do the work, do our due diligence to find out what is in our hearts. And my constant prayer, and I highly encourage you, because it's in the Bible, but God, create in me a clean heart and renew the right spirit within me. Our hearts, like Jeremiah said, our hearts are deceitful above all things. Our hearts have secret motives that we don't even know about. So we need to constantly be asking God, God, create in me a clean heart and renew the right spirit within me, because we want to make sure that we're showing up in the right way. We want to make sure that we're parenting the right way. We want to make sure that the force behind every decision that we make, the force that is behind everything that we do in life, and that how we speak, we want to make sure it's healthy. We want to make sure that it's in a healthy place. James 1, he says, be quick to listen and slow to speak. There are going to be times where it is better for you to be quiet. It's not about winning or losing an argument or something like that, but it's better for you to remain quiet, take a step back, and really pray, number one, but really see what it is that's taking place. Because most of the time when you sit back and you take time to think before you answer, your initial answer would never be your final answer. Okay, so think about that. So James, he's saying, be quick to listen and slow to speak. Most of the time when we listen, most of the time we're already trying to come up with a comeback statement. We're trying to figure, okay, well, this person is saying this, I'm about to say this. That's not how it's supposed to be. You can do more damage that way. And so let's start practicing being quick to listen and slow to speak. Our words cost. I highly encourage you to take up the exercise, get you some pen and paper, journal, but really take time, pray, and ask God, would you show me what's in my heart? And he would definitely show you. And find scriptures to combat it. Because again, what's in your heart, it filters to your mind. And if you don't take captive of the very thoughts that are entering in and make it obedient to Christ, meaning make it align with what the word says, then it shows up in how we speak and how we behave in life. So that's all I have for you today. I will see you in the next video. Go ahead and like this video, share it, subscribe to the page or subscribe to the video, and I will see you in the next.